Easy for the firemen was had what they call a rotary dump ash pan. They were counterweighted to stay down. That's your ash pan, and all you had to do to dump the ashes was just pull this. And on the engines, this has been modified, but on the original, the chain goes up through the cab, so he just reached down in the cab floor and pulled it, and he could dump his ashes. Now the draft doors are gone off of this one, but they're on the model. That's already done, and you just put them in whatever position you want for the amount of draft, or you can drop them completely down to get to the grates. But normally they run just laid over just a little bit. But that's the way that the rotary dump, you see, it returns to its regular running position. Okay.
Is this bracket detailed?
These brackets are done. They're already on the locomotive.
Okay.
Yes, all of that's done. This is done. The side frames. These are made and cast. Steps aren't bent up, but you can see they're just sheet metal with little pieces of angle and board steps. I have the dimensions on those.
Okay.
The grab irons are done on your cab.
Okay.
You don't have to fool with that. Your cab is done. It doesn't have visors, but that's not a factory. That's something they put on later. The big brackets at the end of the frame, they're done. They're made, machined and all. See. Okay. The logging locomotive normally called a steam jam because it jammed on the brakes. It's got a small piston and a large piston both on the same shaft. If you give a partial application of the brake, it puts steam to the small cylinder, so you only have light pressure. If you really need a lot of brakes, you open the valve further, it puts steam to both the large and the small cylinder. And then when you get through, you turn the valve the other way, it puts steam to the off side of the piston and blows them both off so that the brakes act very quickly. They're controlled from a special valve in the cab, which we'll need to make it look right. We'll go and take a picture of it in a minute. The air pump is prototype, but this one wasn't originally put on this locomotive, so the mounting is, you can freelance that however you want. You see the cylinder drain cock mechanism on a Heisler is very unique. The way it works from the cab across, and both of them work from one lever with this casting.
Is that
it's
done?
It's all done, and it looks just like that.
Good.
We use Don Young ball cocks, the little valve, all that's on. And they also have the drain for the steam chest done. Now the only thing, if you'll take a good picture of the covers, John made them pretty much square, but the meat is there, so you need to get the contours so you can round them to match this locomotive. Your locomotive has a snifter valve here, which is supposed to go here. This is just plugged on this one, and they do work. Also, you need to get a picture. John screwed a pipe elbow up here and a nipple for your dry pipe, but all you're going to have to do is just dummy the flange and the studs is all you need to do, because his setup is really good, but it'll look correct. But as you can see on these locomotives, all of the fittings are just basically big pipe fittings. So that, you know, if you use regular pipe fittings on the model, they'll scale out all right. And there's your T up there that you made.
Okay, the dry T, but I haven't made the
elbows because of the angle.
We're not sure of those
yet. And you can't really do that until you get the locomotive, the boiler in the frame, and on the engine in the frame.
Okay.
And that pipe also will be lagged with a wrapped lagging on the engine when you get it finished. That's the way they did it.
Tell me about the bell.
Okay, the bell's gone right now.
Okay. On to the bell.
The bell is over in the building. I have did I not send you the dimensions on the yoke?
A real rough sketch, and I've got that with me right now.
All right, let's climb up there then. We wait. The Heisler bell was unique because they made the base adjustable so they could put the bell on any size taper boiler. And of course what they did was made this casting, it has a slot in it with 2 bolts. Actually they're studs, supposedly they're supposed to be studs coming up from the bottom, and you leveled the bell, got it vertical, and then tightened the nuts. So that's the way the Heisler bell is different from any other locomotive. And that's the way you can tell a Heisler bell. Okay, the steam dome
boy,
cover.
it's hard to get this thing turned on. It's on now.
Steam dome cover with sheet metal flange, and we can do it casting or do it this way out of copper. Either one would work just as well either way. The sand dome was casting you can see how it's made. I'll hold this up and turn it so you can get the angle.
Okay.
Of course, all being cast iron. Here's your handrail brackets.
Okay.
The Heisler stacked these bands, they had a copper band on it for looks. It's not supposed to be here, but the rest of the stack is in good shape, pretty much original. The sawtooth is not supposed to be there either.
This is the dry tea.
Dry pipe tea. Okay, that's good. Where you're at right here.
Okay.
This union and pipe, the throttle rod runs inside of this, and it threads into the back of the steam dome. The other end threads into a casting in the cab with a packing on the other end, so that it's all steam tight.
Down here.
This uses a poppet valve throttle, but ours will use a slide valve. Of course, your bell bracket, like so.
Okay.
Now the bell is in one of these boxcars around here, and we get one of the railroad people to.
Well, if you take good dimensions onto it and some
What
pictures.
I did, Fred, I took this thing and I made marks every inch, and Bill Bryan helped me, and we measured. That's where the measurements came from. The contour is what you want to film this way, you know, because even though the dimensions are hard and you've got a drawing, it's still, if you can look at this, you can sort of see the contour and how it all fits in here, you know. Okay, on your Heisler dry pipes, your lubricator lines go into the side of the elbow. Film that a little more. That'll show where your lubricator line goes. Okay, this plate that the generator's setting on is not the correct one for this setup where the generator sets directly behind the headlight. The one that you need to make is made like this, but it's long enough, the casting is, for the headlight and the generator both to set on it. If this locomotive was set up like it was supposed to be, the headlight would set on this plate and the generator would set back in front of the cab.
On the pattern making,
Those things are amazing, got the low light. That's what I like about it. We had one at Mid-South, and you know how they have the big floodlights in the ball field? We filmed from about 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night just from the light. Wow. Crap.
I'm losing. Okay.
That's what you need. Follow down here last year, had one of those, it was Wayne, what, it had the stabilizer, and it's some type of a gyroscope, and you can walk.
Yeah.
When you get ready, I'll go close it.
Okay, you want to close it, Phil? I'm going to get that.
And while you're here, it's a good time to get the front of the handrail and how it's bent and the bracket. Another good time to get the running board bracket. There's only one running board bracket on the running board on each end. And the step, and also the front boiler brace. And the base is going to have to be made and put on the saddle, because we really couldn't do that until we got the angle of the exhaust pipe. And here again you'll see standard pipe fitting, so pipe fittings are correct. But most Heislers came with the jaw was extended about 4 inches above and below the coupler, but you can see it's a double shank coupler so that it would be strong but yet fit up or down to match the different type log cars that were used. Machine. You just have to make a fixture, you know.
I don't know if he really thought it was going to be a holiday. At least you weren't going to work on that.
Prototype, a lot of the Heislers had that, but you can put that about anywhere you want, here or back in the back. A lot of Heislers had a toolbox that sat there.
Okay.
Partial application, full application, and off. And as they run, you'll watch them move this lever just like this when they're coming down the mountain, on and off, on and off, on and off. These are the great shakers. That's the reason the Heisler couldn't use a butterfly fire door. That's why they had to use a watermelon style or clamshell style door, was because of the limited area on the back head. Ours will use a regular fire door.
Is this fire door prototype?
Yeah, this is original fire door.
These are the cylinder covers. The covers.
Not because the throttle valve was bent to the contour of the boiler so that the engineer could reach it. Johnson bar down here, the reversing lever.
You said that was all done.
That's all, both of them are done.
Okay.
And the Heisler, as you can see, was a pretty cramped locomotive for the engineer and fireman both. The engineer normally sat sideways while running a Heisler so he could get to the brakes, Johnson bar, throttle, injector. Him and the fireman were pretty well separated on a Heisler. Another thing about the Heisler, it's a very hard locomotive to hook up or put into reverse or forward. That's the reason there's a foot bar on the end of the curved part of the Johnson bar. That was for the engineer to brace himself when he unhooked the locomotive to reverse it. That's done also.
Look at that lubricator.
I've got a drawing on the lubricator. It's going to be a nice one, isn't it?
Yeah. Are we going to cast that lubricator up?
One of these days. Now, excuse me while I cross over here. You can come over here.
Okay.
Probably have to move to this side, and I'll show you about the lubricator on the Heisler. The Heisler was that it had central lubrication. A lot of the points on the locomotive were lubricated from a central mechanical lubricator, which normally is set right here on the fireman's side. And it was driven by a set of links and bell cranks from the left-hand valve gear. And on our locomotives, we'll probably put a fireman's seat and toolbox on this side with two model mechanical lubricators in it, pumping up in to the scale mechanical lubricator, which was set here. And then it will feed through copper lines out to the boiler, just like that, the cylinders and the crossheads, just like the original locomotive did.
These are the lubricators that I got those lost wax castings on?
Yeah, and they'll be just perfect.
There'll be a pair of them then?
There'll just be one of them.
One of them?
With about 6 or 8 lines coming out of it.
Okay.
There'll be 2 double feed mechanical lubricators in the fireman's box or seat. Okay, I don't know whether you can see up here or not the steam turret. It's called a niggerhead for obvious reasons. And that's done. It has one main shutoff valve, which you probably can't see from where you're sitting, but the injector lines and all of the steam lines come out of it, including the pressure gauge. Here's your throttle. Can you see that? Here's your throttle packing box and lever ends. All this is already done.
The sight glass right there is a typical sight glass, a Pile National sight glass.
Yeah, probably what I'll use on the model, because that's one thing that you don't want to take any chances with. So I'm probably going to use on my locomotive Railroad Supplies Nathan sight glass, because they're accurate, they don't break, they look good.
Are they the Nathan like that?
No, they don't have the clamps. They're the bolted face.
And they use a tube on the inside.
Yeah, glass tube.
Are they over scale?
Yeah. This is an Edna, but that's one place that you can't take a chance on safety. You need a bigger glass. That's something you have to do. Your pressure gauge goes right here on this bracket, mounts on top of the stuffing box for the throttle. Of course, your lights here. Now that's an item that could be done in scale would look real nice. You need one there and one down here for the water glass.
I have them, but they're probably in a too small scale.
You'd want a larger scale, probably. Injectors. This is a monitor, but a lot of the Heislers use sellers. They use whatever the customer wanted. And LS Manufacturing is doing the patterns now for a horizontal seller's injector, which will be in 2-inch scale, will be correct with the ones in the Heisler cab. So that's one problem we won't have.
They're making them in 2-inch scale?
Well, they're 1.5 inches, but they're bigger injectors, so they'll be correct with 2-inch for us.
Okay, I understand now.
Now this locomotive, if you can see over here on the floor, had a Worthington duplex feed water pump set in the floor for boiler feed and for pumping water to wash and firefighting and that sort of thing. It's been removed now to keep somebody from stealing it. Sometimes logging locomotives had that, but they were normally mounted on top of the water tank.
What, do you know what size of cylinders they use?
I believe they're 4x4. We can look at the pump after a while. They've got it over.
Okay.
You also notice the washout plugs, which you can dummy on the boiler jacket when you jacket your boiler. You can also see that the back head here wasn't rounded or flanged like a shay. It was just a piece of angle. that'll be easy to do. And if you really wanted to go to the detail, and I probably will, back heads will have a sheet placed over them with dummy stay bolt heads on them, just for looks.
Now those are the cone stay bolts too.
And also here's your warming tray for your oil cans.
We ought to make that a casting too.
It needs to be a casting. I have a drawing on it also. I didn't make a drawing for the tricocks or the drain. That's a standard railroad item.
A lot of these we can get the drawings out of the
Encyclopedia.
yeah.
But the brake valve, you can see it has 3 steam lines coming to it and 1 drain line.
That's a standard brake valve though.
No.
It's especially made.
Yeah. The shades were completely different. I mean, they work the same, but they were completely different.
Those aren't, we can't get the drawings out of encyclopedias?
I don't think so. You can check when you get it. That's probably a Heisler. Because the way their brake operates, see, being 2-stage,
okay.
it's a special valve. But that valve won't be hard to fabricate.
Notice the little lump on the grate shaker on the bottom of the handle.
But he normally didn't have a very good way of getting water. They didn't have water tanks or water spouts, so they had to take their water out of the creeks or ponds next to the roadbed. So they had steam siphon, and this is where it came in to the water tank. Under the cab floor would have been the siphon itself with a steam line coming to it and a suction hose that they threw in the creeks. All you did was turn on the steam and you got instant water. Has a latch for casting. This works here, back and forth, shakes the front of the grates. Actually, this is for the rocking grate. I'm wrong. This is for the rocking grate, but it latches right here.
I'm working on that latch right now.
Okay. It's a cute little latch. This could be on either side of the locomotive, by the way. It doesn't really matter. But here you can see the valve, the cylinder cock linkage, the way it's made.
Let's zoom in on that latch. And we're going to have to cut that hole in there with a file because it'll be cast solid.
Yeah, that's no problem on that. Here's a real good place to get a shot of the back axle too. You see it's tapered. I have dimensions. I think I sent you a drawing on it, but that'll give you the contour. Frame rivets are cone head on the outside and round head on the inside. So we're going to have to turn a rivet set to drive the rivets in the frame to get the correct appearance, because that's something you can see, and all of them in the frame are just like this. They're a headed cone head rivet on the shop head.
When you say cone headed, what do you mean by cone headed?
Well, it's cone shape, you see. See, it's cone.
Got a little dimple in the middle of it.
Well, that's where they drove it. This is the shop head. In other words, this is the side that was driven. The other side is round from the factory.
Now this is cone head.
And they'll have to be driven hot, just like the original, but it's done, you know.
I just enjoy doing this stuff, Bill.
Well, that's why I like to scale stuff and get it right.
And, you know, I like to do real high quality.
Well, the thing is, Fred, because you can put whatever you wanted on there.
Oh,
If I ordered a
okay.
Heisler and I wanted Ellis lubricators on it, well, I could order them, you see. Or if I wanted Kip or Michigan or Madison or whoever, I could order it. When we go back on the other side, it has this roller in it. Now, that's one thing we're going to have to do in the patterns. And of course, this plate here keeps the bolster from coming up out of the frame when there's no weight on it. That's about all it really does. But most logging locomotives, there was a gap between the roll and the frame, or the slide plate. On the Heisler, they stayed in contact all the time.
And tell me about these, Bill.
Well, that's just your side frame. As you can see, the square hole, that was filled with waste. We'll put felt in ours, and that's where you oil the journal brass for the axle brass. And then the cutout behind it was for the stud for the journal bearing cap. And all the bosses are on the pattern just exactly like that. The pattern looks just exactly like that. Everything's scaled. As you can see, the springs in there, it takes 4 springs. They'll be 1 inch in diameter, probably 5/32 or 3/16 coil diameter.
Are they round wire or flat
round
wire?
wire.
Round wire.
There's 4 of them. They set on pads. And here's your big bolster, as you see, sets on them and is retained by the little bolster cap which you're working on now. Of course, this cross brace is just strictly to hang the brake rigging from the brake cylinder. But on your locomotive, the main frame